The morning sun had barely lifted over the vast open farmland when the quiet neighborhood was suddenly ripped apart by a scream so sharp it felt like broken glass slicing through the air. A woman in a bright pink robe stormed across her yard, her face twisted with a kind of fury that could scorch the earth beneath her feet. She jabbed her finger toward a man sitting calmly on his porch legs, crushed coffee in hand, expression as relaxed as a man on vacation. Her voice thundered like a furious storm, "Get off my HOA!" But the man didn't flinch, not even a blink, not a tremble. He leaned back a little farther in his wooden chair, letting the warm breeze brush across his face. Between them stood a police officer, clipboard in handpen, moving steadily across the page as if he had handled this kind of meltdown many times before. Neighbors peeked from windows, curious eyes gathered. Something serious was unfolding, something that had been boiling for a long time, and today everything was about to explode. Wait a second, let us know where you are watching from in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories just like this one. For almost a year, the peaceful farming neighborhood had been slowly turning into a battlefield, all because of one person, the self-appointed HOA president in the pink robe. Her name was Corinna Briggs, and she had claimed loudly, repeatedly, and without hesitation that she was in charge of everything. The HOA, according to her, dictated every detail of the neighborhood: the height of the grass, the color of the porch chairs, the placement of mailboxes, even how long someone could leave their truck parked in the yard. And although no one remembered voting for her, and although nobody could recall ever forming an HOA in the first place, Corinna insisted the power was hers. For months she harassed the neighbors. One family received warnings for hanging wind chimes too loud, another was told to repaint their shed before fines begin. She even measured lawns with a ruler and left notes demanding immediate action. Most people were tired, irritated, but too exhausted to fight. They avoided confrontation to keep the peace, but not everyone at the far end of the neighborhood lived. Walter Halle, a retired rancher known for his patience, wit, and ability to stay calm in any storm. He had watched Corinna's reign of imaginary authority grow from inconvenience to disruption to chaos, and then one day she crossed a line that changed everything. She marched into Walter's yard and declared that his old wooden rocking chair, his favorite chair for 30 years, violated HOA porch aesthetics. Her demand: remove it within 24 hours. Walter looked at her, looked at his chair, and something inside him decided enough. Walter quietly began investigating what everyone else had ignored. There was there had never been any HOA. The neighborhood had been built decades ago without one, and no legal documents supported Corinna's claims. She had simply declared herself in control, using confidence, intimidation, and constant shouting to make people submit. So Walter did something the neighborhood never expected. He knocked on doors, gathered signatures, and helped neighbors file an official complaint, not against an HOA, but against a person impersonating authority and harassing an entire community. The process took weeks. But last night, before the sunrise of this tense morning, Walter received the official confirmation: Corinna had zero authority. Her claims, rules, threats, and fines were all invalid and legally questionable. Walter did not plan a scene. He did not want drama, but fate had other plans. That morning, as he sat on his porch sipping coffee, the police arrived, not for him, but for the situation. They had come to deliver the final notice confirming the truth, and that is when Corinna saw the officer. Still believing she was the queen of the neighborhood, she rushed outside, ready to enforce her authority. She spotted Walter sitting calmly and snapped. Her voice tore through the farm air, full of self-righteous anger built from months of imagined power. "Get off my HOA!" The Officer Daniel sighed quietly. He had dealt with many unusual calls in his career, but this one had its own level of spectacle. He tried to speak, but Corinna kept ranting. She claimed Walter was breaking rules, violating standards, disrespecting her position. She demanded that the officer write fines, issue warnings, and force Walter to remove his porch furniture immediately. During her tirade, neighbors had begun gathering at windows, some stepping outside to watch the drama unfold. They whispered among themselves, relieved that someone finally was confronting the relit. Corinna's voice grew louder, her accusations more dramatic. She insisted the officer must act, or she would file a complaint with the HOA board. The board that did not exist. Walter remained still, sipping coffee. The breeze ruffled his shirt. He did not interrupt. He Did not argue, he did not move, officer. Daniels finally lifted his clipboard, cleared his throat, and called Karena's name firmly enough to silence her. Now the moment had come. Karena's breathing grew uneven, expecting support, expecting validation, expecting the officer to take her side as everyone had done before, but today things were different. Officer Daniels began reading, his tone calm but decisive. He explained that after reviewing neighborhood documents, municipal records, and legal filings, there was no HOA registered in the community, no board, no elections, no bylaws, no authority, none at all. He then presented the official notice confirming that Karena had been warned previously about misusing authority and harassing neighbors. As the words hit her, Karena's face drained of color, her mouth fell open. She shook her head, trying to reject every sentence as if denying reality could rewrite the law. The officer continued, stating clearly that she must immediately cease all enforcement attempts. No warnings, no fines, no inspections, and no claiming titles she did not have. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak, but nothing came out except a breath of disbelief. Then Walter finally moved. He leaned forward, placed his coffee mug gently on the table beside him, looked straight at Karena, and with a steady, relaxed voice said the words that ended her imaginary empire. Not anymore. Everything froze. Karena stumbled back a step, her pride crumbling in front of everyone, the neighbors watching from porches and windows. Finally felt justice. The woman who had bullied the entire community had been stripped of the crown she never owned. She turned abruptly, robe swaying as she returned to her house, this time not with authority, but with humiliation. For the first time, Walter's porch felt peaceful and beautifully quiet. The officer handed Walter a copy of the report, nodded respectfully, and drove away, leaving the neighborhood in a silence that felt fresh like the air after a cleansing storm. Little by little, people stepped outside, finally unafraid of the imaginary rules that had governed their lives for too long. Some approached Walter to thank him, others smiled, relieved. Children whose playtime had been restricted on HOA grounds were now free to run through the fields. Families who had feared fines for small details could finally breathe freely again. Karena did not appear for the rest of the day. Her windows remained shut, curtains pulled tight. The pink robe never returned to the yard. Her reign had ended. Walter sat back down in his wooden rocking chair, the same chair she once tried to ban, and let the warm sunlight settle on his shoulders. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt relieved. Justice had been served, not with shouting, but with truth. He took another sip of coffee and looked across the neighborhood he had lived in for 30 years, a place that finally felt like a community again. The neighbors exchanged nods, laughter, and greetings, something they had not done in months. And with the quiet strength he was known for, Walter whispered to himself, some people chase power, some people invent it, but real power is simply doing what is right. The neighborhood would remember this day not as chaos, but as the moment they reclaimed their peace. And Walter kept rocking gently on his porch, finally living in the quiet world he had always loved. Take care.